Hello and welcome to the Back Nine Report. My name is Carlos Torres, and along with Fred Vader, every week we bring you something interesting about the world of golf. And hey, New York, buckle up because the Ryder Cup is headed to Bethpage Black, where the fairways are tight, the rough is nasty, and the crowds are louder than a subway at a rush hour. So, Fred, hi, how are you today?
Hey Carlos, great to be back with you again this week. I know you were tied up last week. I mumbled through a short video, and but glad to have you back this week. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about the Ryder Cup picks. There wasn't a lot of I don't know surprises, but there was a little bit, and we're going to go into that.
We're going to go into that, and it's just a small preview from the big show that we're going to have later in the month. But hey, Team USA brings firepower and form. Team Europe brings chemistry and champion swagger. So over this next few minutes, we'll cut through the noise. Who got snubbed? Why Keegan didn't pick himself? Which roster's trending hotter? And how Beth Page setup could tilt the whole match. So let's tee it up. So first of all, the team that was already picked automatically there for the U.S. was Scotty Scheffler, Sander Schauffele, Russell Henley, J.J. Spawn, Harris English, Bryson DeChambeau. The captain's picks were Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Cameron Young, Patrick Cantlay, and Sam Burns. The Keegan Bradley's the captain. For Europe, the automatic qualifiers were Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Terrell Hatton, Robert McIntyre, and Rasmus Højgaard. The captain's picks were John Ram, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry, Matt Fitzpatrick, Seb Straka, and Ludwig Averg. So, Fred, let's start there. What do you think about this captain's picks? Let's start first with Team USA. Let's talk about it, and then we'll move to Team Europe on it. So, what do you think about those captain's picks?
Well, the captain's picks, I get, I understand, I understand Colin Morikawa. He didn't pick himself, first of all, Carlos, and he was pretty high up. I mean, he ended up, I think, T13 in the final FedEx Cup standing. So he was definitely in the mix. He would have been one of the better players. If he were not being the captain would probably have picked him because he did have some past Ryder Cup experience and he would be good. But he decided not to pick himself, which I understand. I think it's probably a wise move, actually. But let's talk about his picks, okay? Carlos, we keep the Team USA keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over, and they keep losing. Do you know in the last 30 years, this will be the 15th Ryder Cup in the last 30 years. So over the last 14 Ryder Cups, how many do you think the U.S. has won?
How many?
Four. They're 10-4 in the last 14 Ryder Cups. We keep making the same mistakes. They pick their buddies instead of the better players that would fit the team better. So I really thought that Keegan maybe would do it a little bit differently, but he passed over Matt McNeely and he passed over Brian Harman to pick good old boys Sam Burns and Patrick Cantlay. So I see this as a look into the future, and I see this as a loss for the U.S. team. Burns is Scheffler's buddy, and Cantlay was tapped to play with Schauffele again. Big mistake picking Cantlay. He was very disruptive at the last Ryder Cup in Italy and should not have been picked. I would never pick Patrick Cantlay for anything. If it were just a single stroke play event, Patrick Cantlay would be your guy. But for a team event, I don't think he's a team player. I just don't believe it. He hasn't proved it to me from looking from the outside. Keegan's other picks, Ben Griffin, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, and Cameron Young, all solid. Were ranked 7 to 10 on the Ryder Cup ranking. All had solid years on tour, deserve a spot. Griffin's a rookie, but his personality and aggressive play could be a very good thing for Team USA. Young is also a rookie, but he's played on a President's Cup, not the same as a Ryder Cup, I'm afraid. Got his first PGA Tour at the final regular season event to win a championship. So, Carlos, my thinking is that Matt McNeely much more rounded player, much more steady, would be a great team player in either foursomes or far ball. He's very consistent. Brian Harmon, oh, he only won a Open Championship a couple years ago, and we just write him off like he's nothing. The guy's a tremendous putter, keeps it in the fairway, hits the greens, great team player. He's the kind of guy. These two guys, McNeely and Harmon, are exactly the kind of guys you want to have for foursomes and four balls. This is where the United States always falls down in the team matches. And what do? They pick their buddies instead of picking the guys that could really help them, Carlos.
So here's the thing, and I understand the Patrick Cantley angle. I definitely am I'm for it never being there, but at the same time, you have to think it this way. What has been Europe's uh, favorite formula for winning? Chemistry is really what it's all about. It's not about who's the better player, because if not, all the times that Sergio has been down that road, he's not going to be picking. Then he's picking. Look what he does. So the thing that I see from Europe is all about not only their experience, right? And but it's their chemistry and the way that they yell together to try to win this thing. And I understand Cantley and Burns were picked mostly for chemistry here because that's who Sam Burns with Scheffler, Cantley with Schauffele. But that's what you need. You really need a team that has that fit to make it better. I'm not saying it's gonna be, but that's what you look for, at least in the US. And I think that's what Keegan was trying to look for. Okay, he did excluded higher players based on lack of team experience, maybe like McNeely, or specific weaknesses with Harmon because the driving distance. Yeah, and that's why where I see that he gets Cameron Young there and for Bethpage Blacks over the point standing. It's not always, because otherwise, let's just pick the top 12 and that's it. Let's not pick anybody else. You got it. What's the need then for you to have captain's picks if we're just gonna say let's just pick the next ones on the ranking? They never are. That's why Europe keeps winning over the US. They don't pick by rankings. They pick more for what the chemistry of the team is.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Um, Patrick Cantley was very disruptive in Italy. Where was the chemistry there? It wasn't there. Okay, he single handedly divided the team room, and made a big deal about getting paid and all these other issues outside of the Ryder Cup itself. So I would never have picked him for anything. If he got in on his own merit, fine, but I would not pick him. And I really, I just don't. We're going to get to it more when we get to Europeans, but I just don't see the U.S. winning this thing. And I think this is the same mistake we keep making over and over. Mav McNeely, Brian. Oh, let me ask you. I want to answer your distance question with Brian Harmon. No, he doesn't hit it as long as some of the guys. He hits a 290 maybe once in a while, 295, but he hits fairways, Carlos. Tremendous arm player, tremendous putter, great team. He would be good in foursomes or four ball, either one. Put him. You could put Harmon with a guy like Ben Griffin, who's a little bit wild in four ball. Let Harmon make the pars and let Griffin go for birdies. That's a perfect four ball team. Um, I just don't. Burns is very streaky, very streaky. We've seen him play with Scheffler before, and it's mixed results there. Okay, no, they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. So I like Sam Burns. I like him as a player, but I would not have picked Burns and Cantley in this instance over McNeely and Harmon.
Well, time will tell. We'll see. I'm with you on the Patrick Cantley. I definitely, to me, like Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank says, he's dead to me after what he did last time. So I'm always a team. This thing about the Ryder Cup and the team play is something I love over the individual, because you're playing for something other than yourself. You're not playing for yourself here. And that's another thing that the Europeans do very well. So let's talk really about the European team, because There were some snubs, probably you can say. People were saying, "Hey, Nikolai Hoshgard, Rasmus brother, Matt Wallace, or Mark Penge." I think the rationale for picks, Luke Donald, who did a magnificent job last time, favor experience and continuity. He returns 11 of 12 players from their winning team in 2023, and only one is coming here. He overlooked informed players without Ryder Cup experience, like Wallace and Penge, in favor of proven veterans, despite there being recently winless status. And again, we go to the same thing. He's picking more experience and people that know how to play this Ryder Cup team format. And I just think they have an amazing team. I mean, just looking from top to bottom. I mean, picking there, John Ram, Shane Lowry, Victor Hovland is a captain's pick. Ludwig Berg, amazing player. Matt Fitzpatrick was one that was last time controversially picked by Luke, but look, he did really well. And Seb Straka, oh my God. I mean, you look at that team, and to me, it looks, even though they're not as high rank because the average hammer rank from the US is 12 point something against 19 point something from the Europeans. It just doesn't matter. That's not what Europe looks for. And they're gonna be, to me, they're a better team right now than what the US has put up together.
On paper, it's not even close. I went through after Keegan Bradley made his picks. I went through the European team to look at what the picks could possibly be, and I mean, it was obvious. I mean, Donald had no choice. Matt Wallace, Penge, Nikolai, they're good players, but they're not ready. Matt Wallace, especially, chokes in the big stage. This would not have been good for him. And Nikolai's pretty new, and Penge pretty much unproven at this point. On Facebook, I posted the picks, and I said, the Europeans look like they're going to pretty strong, going to win, and somebody said should have picked Penge, but I no, I don't think so. You look at that, you look at who he picked, who Luke Donald picked. I mean, this is the most impressive European team I've ever seen, Carlos, and I've been watching this Ryder Cup for a long time. So this they are loaded. Normally the Europeans have 2 to 3 guys that they hide, that they don't let play hardly in the team matches at all, and they don't have this time. Donald could put any one of these guys, maybe Rasmus Højgaard. You wouldn't put him in foursomes for sure. You might put him on in four ball with a steady player because he's long, but he's pretty wild. But any of these other 11 guys, other than Højgaard, they they're solid. I wouldn't worry about putting any of those guys out, and they match up really well. Rory, my goodness, you've got arguably the first or second best guy in the world over the last 20 years, right? In there leading the team. Tommy Fleetwood finally got his win, so now he's riding a big confidence high. Justin Rose won in the playoffs. I mean, this is just unbelievable what team they have got, and they're all playing well right now. So I don't see any way. I really applaud Luke Donald for his picks and his team. They're coming off a win in 2023 in Italy. 11 of the 12 same players. I just don't see any way it's going to beat them, Carlos.
Definitely, I agree. I mean, Rory McIlroy finally completed the career Grand Slam at the Masters. He's still elite. Tommy Fleetwood, if you're gonna talk about somebody that's hot, Tommy Fleetwood is the hottest player right now. John Ram, Victor Hovland, Ludwig Avert. Oh my God, those are world-class ball striking trio right there. And Seb Straka, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Shane Lowry. Those are people that have balanced games for those foursomes. They are amazing. So McIntyre, what a push that guy did in the playoffs. I mean, they are, if you're talking not only about players that are good, they are in form right now. So let's talk about then the course, Bethpage Black. Uh, does the setup tilt the match one way or the other?
I really think it does, Carlos. It's a home game for the Americans, but I don't see them as the favorites here. Let's go back to France 4 years ago, and let's go back to Italy 2 years ago. Very difficult golf courses, especially the first tee shot on the first hole, both courses. And what did you see? You saw the Americans hitting driver down there in the rough or in the bunker and not getting on the green and making par or bogey, and the Europeans hitting a fairway hybrid or a fairway wood, finding the fairway, having a longer shot in, but hitting on the green and having putts for birdies and taking pars and winning. I mean, half the time they won the first hole and they were off and running. So we got the same situation, Bethpage Black. Very difficult golf course. You're going to see the Europeans hitting fairway woods and hybrids off the tees, and you're going to see the Americans trying to hit driver down there and getting in trouble. I can tell you right now, Carlos, that's what's going to happen, and we're going to lose because of that. So I really feel at this point, even though it's one of the hardest golf courses in the world, the Americans are such great players. I just don't see the course favoring them. I see it favoring the Europeans, Carlos.
Well, one thing that we have to also take into account, I mean, Bethpage Black is long. I mean, bruising Tillinghast with demanding tee shots and heavy penalty for wayward drives. I just think of the 2019 PGA Championship, that power profile where Brooks Koepka and DJ separated with driving and long iron excellence, right? So one thing is that the host country uh, always dictates the setup for that. So I would expect them to use the width where it suits them and manage rough and pins to
Maybe
reward
cut the rough
aggressiveness.
down a little bit, you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean that they have to. I think that they will manage to roughen paints to reward aggressive, high quality approach play. That typically benefits the US side built around strokes gain of the tee and then lead a long iron, right? Like Scheffler, DeChambeau, Schauffele, and Cam Young. I know that the captains do influence the setup, of course, in consultation with the PGA of America, but uh, previews suggest that the fairways may be widened and rough moderated relative to everyday Bethpage, which enhances that bomb and gouge, right? Value and crowd pleasing birdie chances. Again, US may be favored by that. Of course, Europe counters with its own bombers like McIlroy or Hovland or Alberg and meticulous for some structures, but raw distance and local comfort like Cam Young are really home edges here. So expect the course plus the crowd, small but meaningful Team USA advantage to me in that part. That's what I think it should happen there.
So good. We got some disagreements going here today. Okay, I like it.
All right. Well, we'll see. September 26th is when this is. We will know all about this. But let's talk about some final thoughts about this.
Carlos, since 1995, the U.S. has only won four of the last 14 Ryder Cups, as I said earlier. Let that sink in. They've only won four out of 14. That tells you they've been doing something wrong. Phil Mickelson was very involved in restructuring the Ryder Cup process for choosing captains after the 2014 debacle at Glen Eagles after the rift between Tom Watson, and Phil Mickelson. It's somewhat ironic that Keegan has not had a ton of Ryder Cup experience and was tapped to take Phil's place as captain of this year's Ryder Cup. But in the end, the same mistakes were made choosing guys because they're buddies instead of guys that can be good team players. My prediction, the United States will lose yours at Bethpage once again, Carlos.
Well, to me, both teams are strong. I think Europe has the stronger team, and I agree with you. This may be one of the best teams that we have seen from Europe, and not because of strength or quality or oh my God, flashiness or anything like that. I think that they're bringing near total continuity, a generational core there. The US brings peak Scheffler, big engine drivers and a captain willing to make hard calls, right? I do think that the Bethpage setup will be to to benefit the U.S. players and give the Americans a nudge, but to me, it feels like a knife edge cutting cup that swings on Saturday's foursomes execution and putting nerves on Sunday for those singles. So I still think by whisker the Europeans will win. But the truth is also we have to turn one thing very important that I remember from the last Ryder Cup is one thing that the captains do is they decide what the format will be. And one thing that Luke Donald did last time to try to influence that he won't be able to do was to change the foursomes to be done in the morning and then the four ball in the afternoon because he knows historically the Europeans are stronger on the foursomes, and they went 7-1 there. When they came to be to the singles, that lead was just too much to overcome for the U.S. on Sunday. That won't be the factor here. So it's to me it's still a very balanced how it's going to be because I think the crowd is going to be very much into it. And there's going to be a lot of players from the US that really feed into it. And that's what I think Keegan was looking for. Keegan is that type of player as well that feeds from the crowd. So a good setup for the US and a lot of the influence of the crowd could maybe swing it in that way. So any final close before we close
No,
this?
that pretty much sums it up for me. I just like I say, I'm really impressed with the European team. They are so good. They're so talented, so experienced. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. So I don't think it's going to even be that close, Carlos. I look for a 4 or 5 point margin.
All right, then.
Oh, here's one other point I want to make before we go. So, and as I said, the Europeans normally have 2 or 3 players that they have to hide. Well, when they get to singles, they can't hide them. Everybody's got to play. So the American team always wins the singles on Sunday because our lower end players are better than the European lower end players. Well, not so this year. I see the Europeans carrying the singles this year because I really think their players are better man to man than what like Sam Burns and some of the lower guys are for the American players. So if they are down at all going in the singles, they can't count on winning the singles this year. It's going to be an even at best, and maybe even the Europeans winning today.
I have to agree there. I think that top to bottom this time, something rare, right? That the US doesn't have the edge on the
Advantage.
singles.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes, but it's gonna be nice to watch. We'll see. That's our card for tonight. If you like the deep dive, rate the show, share it with a golf obsessed friend, and tell us who is your Ryder Cup X Factor there at Bethpage. We'll be back with pairings live from the tee box takes and post season breakdown. So hey, until then, fairways, greens, and keep it in New York there at Bethpage Black. Thank you for joining.